Hello, is anybody there?
We're here. We'll be starting soon.
There we go. Yeah. I think it's because I come in normally when you're talking and I'm early today.
Me talking? Okay. All right. Welcome, Felicia.
Welcome, John.
All right. We are going to get started here. Amy should be on shortly. We also, let me just check. There's all right. All right. So another couple seconds. So while we're waiting for everybody, how was everyone's week? Hope everyone had a great week with goal setting. Did we all get our goals set and our 3 tasks? How'd we do? I'm looking for a thumbs up. Either show me a thumbs up or type TU into the chat box. All right. I see some thumbs up out there. Way to go. Way to go. That's how we got to, every week you got to, oh, there's Amy. Every week you got to do it, right? You got to keep doing each little task as we move along. And you'll see why. You'll see why as we move along, why it's so important to do it as each step, right? Why we didn't jump right into habits and all that good stuff. So let me just see. The other thing I wanted to mention was that don't forget that when you set your why a couple weeks ago, that is something you can tweak, right? That is not something that is cast in stone. It's whatever works for you now. Right? So don't be afraid to tweak that, modify that, start over from scratch if it's not working for you, right? Don't feel like you've got to stick with it even for these 10 weeks, even for the next week. All right? So whatever you have to do to make this program work for you, that's what you do each week. All right? So tonight we are joined, for you newbies, we are joined by the dynamic mother-daughter team of Darlene and Lacey. I'm just making sure Lacey is here.
Yes, I am.
Lacey's here. All right. And I know I saw Darlene on there earlier. So everybody's here. So we're going to get started. So first of all, let me just say that it's awesome that I get to work with Amy every week. But it's also nice when Amy and I are able to welcome in people like Darlene and Lacey to bring you guys a different perspective, a different voice, give you some expert advice that Amy and I love to share with all of you. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, but let me just tell you that Darlene and Lacey are on the Engine 2 Plant Strong culinary team, which means they travel to all the events and cook for all the people, whether it's 80 people or 700 people. And so their food is amazing, and we're going to have them talking all about food tonight. And Lacey's looking very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for a new mom. So congratulations to Lacey on being a new mom.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I'm sure she'll tell us all about it. So Darlene, why don't you start us off and introduce yourself? You have to unmute yourself.
That helps.
There she is.
Well, it is so fun to be with you guys. You guys, you look amazing. I just scrolled through. There's 4 pages of you. This is so exciting. Well, let's see, to introduce myself, I've been married for 7 years. We've got 4 kids, 4 grandkids, and I've always tried to eat healthy. Always, always, always. When I was in grade school, I remember my mom used to think that fruit and vegetables were too expensive. So I would save up my babysitting money and I would bike to the grocery store and I would get some fruits and vegetables and bring them back. And that was kind of fun way to start. I could tell a difference when I ate that way. And I was raised in the standard American way. And I have a lot of illness in my side of the family. And I just wanted to do everything I could to avoid that. So, about 8-9 years ago, I came across the video Forks Over Knives and went all in. There was no turning back. So cleaned everything out of the kitchen and had nothing to eat. So we went cold turkey and it was scary. But I figured as long as we could have at least one breakfast, which was Rip's Big Bowl, and a lunch and a dinner with rice and beans or something, we wouldn't starve, and we didn't. And since then, I've gone on to go to plant-based culinary school and went to a couple of health coaching schools. So anyway, that is all about me.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. And now, Lacey, let's hear all the good news.
Yes, hello. As John said, I am a new mom. I just had a baby about a month ago, and we are absolutely loving her. She is such a little treasure. So my name is Lacey Gibson, not Jim Staley, as it says. I'm logged into the wrong account. But I'm a board certified functional medicine health coach, and I absolutely love helping people achieve their goals and become the person that they dream of becoming. I'm also a healthy food chef. I attended the same health supportive culinary school in Austin, Texas as my mom. That was so fun. And one of my passions is making healthy food taste dang good. So how I came to this way of eating. I've had 2 kidney transplants, and my first kidney transplant was from my dad. His kidney lasted 4 beautiful years, but they made the artery on it too long, so it twisted on itself, cut off the blood supply, and died. My second kidney was from my mom, which it rarely happens that both parents are a match, but I was so blessed, and I've had her kidney for almost 17 years. So several years ago, that kidney started to fail, and it was severely struggling, and all signs pointed to transplant number 3. I refused. There had to be a better way. Now, the typical lifespan of a transplanted kidney is 15 to 20 years, but I decided that I would beat those odds. So as my mom said, she had watched Forks Over Knives and had met with a doctor who happened to be a plant-based guru. She asked him about me and my kidneys, and he told her that I absolutely should never, ever, ever eat meat or dairy ever again. And eggs, I should avoid those like the plague. Because you see, all animal protein is really hard on the kidneys, but eggs are the absolute worst. They contain all the animal protein potential as a grown chicken, and as such, are like little animal protein bombs in your body wreaking havoc. Let me tell you, that was not the news I wanted to hear. I'm sad to say it, but I loved meat, and I had eggs just about every single day. But I promised myself that I would just give it a try. So I stopped eating eggs and meat, and you know what? Something magical happened. My kidney function drastically improved, and I realized that I had more energy, and I just felt more alive. So after removing dairy a little while later, I found that I could actually breathe at night, and that I could breathe better while exercising. I had even more energy, and after a couple weeks, I found that I had no desire to eat it anymore. So before this whole food plant-based lifestyle, I was in stage 4 renal failure, quickly creeping up to stage 5. And today, I'm happy to say that my kidney is outperforming people my age. Transplant number 3 is nowhere in sight, and my doctors are seriously baffled. Now, if you would have told me 9 years ago that I would be whole food plant-based, I would have just about died laughing in your face. But now, you couldn't pay me all the money in the world to eat meat, dairy, or eggs. And I feel so much better, and I would never go back. So my why is to live my full and energetic life. I know what it's like to live in a hospital for months at a time, and I'm never going back. I have a month-old newborn baby, and I want to be the best I can be for her as well. So I'm doing this to stay alive. And my body is not a graveyard for animals or for myself.
All right. Well, thank you, Lacey. You know, Lacey, every time I hear that story, it just amazes me, and just the love that you and your parents have for you, and just the love in your whole family is just so awesome to see. And thanks for sharing that each time. So
Thanks, John.
Great. All right. So tonight is all about food. So we are going to start it off with Amy. Amy is going to tell you how to set up your environment for success. So Amy.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to be with you tonight. Setting up your environment for success means not having things in your eyesight, in your reach, in your temptation zone. And so if that means cleaning out your kitchen, your office, your car, your purse, your backpack, your gym bag, whatever, wherever you might have snacks stashed away, that's what we're going to talk about. And so in a divided household, that can be really challenging, right? I mean, if there are people in your household who are not eating this way, chances are they probably have stuff that is a temptation for you. So if you can clear out a cupboard or a shelf in the refrigerator, or even a little section of the freezer that can be your section where your things are. Or better yet, contraband moves to that cupboard, right? Anything that is of temptation, if you can put the Oreos and every other thing that is in temptation's way of you having that in your face, so to speak, it would be great if you could put a pantry cupboard or a kitchen cupboard aside for those things. When you don't have those things within eyesight, that can be really helpful. And having foods that are super convenient and good for you within eyesight can also be helpful. So things like a bowl of clementines is my new candy dish. So I usually have a big bowl in the center of my kitchen table, and I like to keep either clementines or pears or nectarines, things like that, that I can grab quickly when I need a snack. And if it's in my eyesight, if I can see it from wherever I am, that usually is the first thing that I will gravitate toward, instead of digging in the cupboards for something that I probably shouldn't have anyway. So keeping good snacks within reach, keeping snacks and foods that you know are challenging for you, keeping those somewhere else out of eyesight can be really helpful. And in some cases, it might even mean having a conversation with family members about certain things. For example, my daughter loves Pop-Tarts. They're awful. They're the most awful, processed, horrible food. But my daughter loves, especially at Halloween time, they come out with the pumpkin ones. Well, at 3 o'clock in the morning one night, my husband got into the pumpkin Pop-Tarts because they were within reach. And so we just asked her, she's an adult, when she was living with us going through college, we asked her if she could keep those in her room, because then he wouldn't have access to them at 3 o'clock in the morning without going looking. And so little things like that can really make a huge difference. So if you can either clean the pantry out, organize, you know, if you're the master of the kitchen, by all means, rearrange. If it requires some input, have a family meeting, or have a talk with your significant other that can simply say, you know what, I'm doing this thing, you know, I'm not going to do it forever, but in the meantime, while I am doing it, it would be super helpful for me if we either didn't have peanut butter in the house, or if you could keep the peanut butter in a special place where I don't see it every day when I open the cupboard. That would be really helpful for me because I find it challenging, because I really like peanut butter a lot. When you say it like that, and it's all about you and the issue that you might have with peanut butter or walnuts or whatever it is, anything that you know that you're going to overeat, or grab chips or pretzels, whatever it is, if you can have a conversation on that level with someone and say, listen, it's just really challenging for me. I'm not saying you can't have it. I'm just saying, can you keep it out of my eyesight? That would be really helpful. Often that can be really well received. If it's not really well received, you know, you might know your significant other or your household members best. If that is something that would cause an issue, just move it, relocate it. They'll find it, right? Setting yourself up for success in your car means not having snacks stashed in your center console, or if you are working in an office or at your workplace in your break room, if you can either have something there that you know you can have, whether it is a big bowl of apples, so you can grab one and others could have some as well. If that is something that you can do, awesome. If you have a stash of M&Ms in your desk drawer, like somebody I know used to, if you have M&Ms in your desk drawer, some of the things you can do is keep shelf-stable items in your desk drawer instead. For example, you could have, Dr. McDougall has a dry soup mix that comes in little cups. Those are great. You could also have oatmeal cups that don't have added sugar in your desk drawer, so you could have a snack that way. You can have brown rice, actually comes in a shelf-stable, no oil added container. Lundberg's makes it, and you can get it at Whole Foods and a couple other places. You could have that in your desk drawer. Even like emergency snacks, if you had one of those little single serving bags of almonds, not the end of the world if you're snacking on that instead of a candy bar. Cans of sparkling water, tea bags, a nice cup of hot tea, especially like an herbal tea, like one of the sweet ones, maybe an apple cinnamon, can be a really nice treat in the afternoon. If it's somebody's birthday and they're having cake at the office, that can be a really great way to work around that. Have a hot cup of apple tea and an oatmeal cup instead, and you won't feel as missing out as you might otherwise. The longer you get doing this, you realize that the cake that everybody else is having isn't really going to make you feel very good. And so that's one of the things that you can keep in your desk drawer. Always having those things at the ready can make a huge difference between grabbing something really quick that you can see and success ultimately. Also, in the process of preparing your environment, think of your emergency meal. On the days when you'd rather call and order pizza and you know you could have it in 30 minutes delivered to your house and there you go and you're all set, have a meal ready to go, something you really enjoy. Maybe you bake a plant-based lasagna, or you have something that you can really heat up in 5 minutes and be ready to go, whether it's chili and you could have that with some baked tortilla chips. That can be really ready to go in about 8 minutes. All you have to do is toast or oven, put your tortillas in there, cut them up in pieces, or better yet, just break them in half, and you can heat up your chili in the microwave really quick. Having those things ready to go at the ready so you can be prepared for success on the worst day, the day that you don't feel like it, the day that all of the excuses are going to creep in and find you in your cupboards in your kitchen, that can make all the difference. And so be prepared, clear up your environment wherever that may be, and have the conversations that you might need to have with the lady with the candy dish on her desk that's right next to yours. Offer to bring her some really amazing peaches instead.
Great, thanks, Amy. So, Amy, just a couple quick questions. People are asking about, you have a suggestion for a quick emergency recipe that you can refer to. Is there something,
yeah.
I know you mentioned, lasagna, but any other suggestions?
I love to keep taco. I make lentil tacos, veggie crumbles, I think is the name of the recipe on the website. It's a recipe that you can heat up really quickly. It's lentils and bulgur wheat. I use black lentils because they're sort of chubby and beefy, and brown lentils and some quinoa or some farro, just to add all of those textures. So it's very much like ground beef. I tend to make that in a really big batch. The recipe that's on our website is actually a huge batch. And I make that so I can have it in individual containers. I think it's Ziploc. Ziploc makes screw-on plastic containers that are about, I think they're 16 ounces. I fill those up and they only take 3 minutes to heat up in the microwave. And then I can make tacos. I can make a taco salad. I could do the same thing, the same recipe. You can make sloppy joes. You can make like an Italian crumble on a pizza. And so those are the things that I have a tendency to keep in the freezer. I usually have a soup and I have my lentil crumbles in the freezer all the time. That's my emergency go-to, because if I can build a taco or a taco salad or a taco bowl in a heartbeat, and it only takes me a few minutes to microwave it, that beats any pizza any day.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Amy. And I think anything that you make, any recipe you make from the 7-Day Rescue Cookbook, or, is good for leftovers, right? That can be something that's quick and easy the next day. I know the eat loaf is something that I'll have one night and then I'll have the next night or the next day as kind of a mid-meal lunchtime thing. So, all right. So some of the things that a lot of people struggle with when they switch to whole food plant-based is, oh my gosh, you mean I can't use oil even for cooking? And how do you make this easy, right? I saw one question flash by that Darlene was questioning how you survived on one breakfast, lunch, and dinner for your family. So maybe you can address that. So I'm going to turn it over to the culinary team that's on this tonight and let them talk to you about cooking with no oil, making this easy, and some of their favorite kitchen tools that they find handy to use each time they are making this way. So Darlene Lacey, take it away.
All right. Well, I'll go first, I guess. So some cooking tips. Let's start with cooking tips. First and foremost, this way of cooking is just so much fun. I mean, you have total and complete freedom to play and get creative in your kitchen and not have to worry about like sanitizing the dead chicken in your sink or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's so fun. So here are a few tips to make this way of cooking and eating even more enjoyable. So first, the most important thing to have in your pantry is something you will actually eat. So start with a grain that you actually like and make sure you have it on hand. And make sure you have at least one bean or lentil. If you like it or you'll tolerate it, just make sure you have it in your home. And whatever greens you like, stock it up. Just have these foods on hand so that when push comes to shove, you don't have the time or the desire to stick to it or whatever, you can at least rely on that. It's so much easier to make healthy decisions on a full stomach, isn't it? And if you have these 3 base ingredients and then you add sparks on top, you'll have a meal in 5 minutes. And just know, even if you don't absolutely love this food right now, that's okay. You can eat food that you don't love. Your taste buds will change. You'll get over it. So for now, just suck it up because you can do this. And another thing, you don't have to do something different for every single meal. Like Darlene said, she started out with just 1 meal at a time. So if you like it, eat it. It's a safe meal you can fall back on. And right now, repetition is really your friend. And tip number 2, check out the pantry list. It has some great ideas. My favorite part is on the second page. It just has a list of different seasonings that you can add to your food to make it taste delicious, from Italian to Thai to barbecue. It's really an excellent resource. Add greens to the bottom of your bowls. I'm sure Amy's already talked to y'all about this. You'll put so many other flavors on top that you'll hardly notice them. And if you're having trouble adding greens to your breakfast, try adding cooked riced cauliflower to your oats. And I know it sounds weird, but just give it a shot because people who have been in your exact shoes, they swear by this. And let's talk about sparks. Sparks, sparks, sparks. There are so many varieties. They can completely transform your dish. Try balsamic vinegar, a splash of tamari, some barbecue sauce, a swirl of sriracha, some ketchup and mustard and nutritional yeast, a little avocado, some salsa. Just experiment with different sauces and dressings. They're so fun. And if you need inspiration, look in the 7-Day Rescue Diet book. I'm sure the Facebook group you guys have many ideas, or just Google it. There are really so many resources. Be adventurous. Go outside your box because now is the perfect time to try different foods. Have you ever wondered what like a dragon fruit tastes like? Just grab it. Or how about the braca flower? Put it in your cart. There are so many, many different fruits and vegetables to try. And if you find that you're having a hard time with greens, if you find that dark leafies like kale, chard, or collards just tend to be too bitter for you, here's a tip. I don't know why, but something magical happens when you cook them with cauliflower. I don't know what it is, but it just makes it so much sweeter and appetizing. I mean, as sweet as dark leafies can be anyways, right? Or how about Brussels sprouts? If you find they're too strong and bitter, try cooking them with broccoli and cauliflower, or squash like zucchini or butternut. It's so trippy, but it works. And if you miss salt, trick your tongue and try adding mustard or lemon or lime juice or vinegar or flavored vinegars to your dish. They hit the same receptors on your tongue that salt does, and they'll help you feel like you're not missing out on the salt. Do you find that you occasionally need something sweet after your meal? Like I used to, every single meal I'd have like chocolate or ice cream or something. Try eating fruit at the end of your meal. Frozen cherries right now are my absolute favorite. They're so tantalizingly sweet and fresh. I feel like I'm eating bite-sized popsicles. They're so fun. You can also try different cooking techniques. It's really amazing how differently food can taste if you bake it or caramelize it or roast it or grill it. They're going to give you such different flavors. So some of my all-time favorite cooking methods include roasting. This makes things crispy on the outside and soft and, dare I say, creamy on the inside. It also lends to a depth of flavor. And this isn't just for veggies. No. This is for beans too. My favorite are roasted chickpeas and edamame. Yum. The longer you cook those, the crispier they'll be and just, I roast everything. Basically all the veggies. So cauliflower, beets, broccoli, kale, all kinds of potatoes, mushrooms, onions, squash, bell peppers, carrots, celery, you get it. You name it, I've probably roasted it. And one of my all-time favorite bowls at the moment happens to be a fantastic end of the week meal. It's like an everything but the kitchen sink type meal. So first I preheat my oven to 375, 400-ish, and then I look in my fridge and grab anything I have that's roast worthy, which is basically everything. And then I chop my veggies, and the bigger they are, the longer they'll take to cook. So if you want some food fast, chop them tiny. Then I season them, and lately I've been using garlic and onion granules, some black pepper, and then I either do chili powder and smoked paprika and fresh lime juice at the very end, or curry powder and garam masala to mix things up. Next, I line a baking sheet or two with foil or parchment paper, and I roast them for somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes, flipping them halfway through. And I serve this with a whole grain, so quinoa or black rice is my absolute favorite, and a nice big spoonful or two or three of hummus on top. And greens, I love roasting my greens. It adds such a different flavor, and it makes me excited to eat them because honestly, you can only eat raw or steamed broccoli so many times. And a random tip, if you also roast veggies, you can throw them in soups and stews for a deeper and more robust flavor profile. It's so fun. If I'm in the mood for something simple and low key, I love steaming my veggies. And my favorite things to steam are potatoes. They get so much creamier and you don't miss the butter as much. So to steam the potatoes, you put a little water in a pan, add a steamer basket, add your chopped potatoes, cover with the lid, bring to a boil, reduce heat, and cook until they're tender. And there you go, you have creamy, steamy potatoes just waiting to be devoured. All right, so now how to make your bowl not boring. Textures, we love textures. We add a variety of different textures to make an interesting dish. So for some crunch, you can try adding raw veggies or fruits or a small handful of walnuts on your breakfast bowl. I love grating fruits and veggies to add some crunch in like a cheese grater. And some of my favorites are carrots, raw beets, and apples. Cucumbers are a great addition to any bowl and add a burst of freshness. Bell peppers have an excellent crunch factor, and they have more vitamin C than an orange, which is great for boosting your immune system. Grapes and frozen blueberries are also Crunchylicious, and you can add roasted veggies and chickpeas for the crunch win. So creamy, try adding hummus to your dish or make a dressing using hummus as the base. Steamed potatoes are so great for creaminess and also can be used in sauces, and a quarter of an avocado a day. If you want something a little more chewy, whole grain rice, quinoa, and oats are amazing. And sometimes leftover roasted veggies can take on a chewy texture as well. And then whole grain bread for a flat is quite chewy. So over to you, Darlene, with cooking tips, and then I'll talk about some of my favorite kitchen tools.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Let's see, one of the things that I learned in the very beginning was how do I make food taste good without oil? Because everybody knows that olive oil is like the best thing ever. So you take an onion and you put oil in the pot and then you cook it. Well, I found that one of my best things, I have show and tell for you guys. One of my very, very best things is a nice heavy pot and with a nice heavy lid. And with that, I found that if I chopped up or diced my onion, I know that if you're not into chopping, you can get a lot of this stuff pre-chopped and frozen, just, put it in the pan. Either way, in mushrooms too. You just get the pan on the stove, get it nice, maybe a medium high heat, get the pan warm, put the onions in it, and you'll hear some little sizzles and they'll start to stick to the pan, right? Because there's no oil. And what do we do? Oh no. Well, if you add if you do it low enough, like a medium, barely over medium heat, you can let them just sit and they will sweat, and their own sweat will become the juices that help them from sticking to the pan. If not, if you don't have time for that, turn it up a little bit higher, add a tablespoon of water, stir it around, and they'll break up. They're gonna leave marks on the bottom of the pan. And I always thought, oh no, that is the worst thing ever. They're burning, get them off, get them off. That's actually where the flavor comes from. So if you can let them caramelize on the bottom of the pan a little, and not black brown, that's gone too far, but brown is good. Stir it around, add a little tablespoon of water if you need to, let them, leave them do their thing. And then you come back, stir it around, and that's when you can start adding in the mushrooms if you haven't done it already. Let them do the same thing. Just keep cooking them down. Then you stir it, maybe add just a little bit of water. And what that does is it deglazes. So it's gonna do just like it does when you cook with all the other stuff that we don't cook with. Water can do that. And then you add your garlic, and then you can add whatever else you've got going on. But that is like gold. That little trick right there, when I learned that, I felt like I was empowered in my kitchen. So along with that, Lacey talked about the steamer basket, and I thought I would show you, this is the best thing that I actually learned from Lacey. I was at her house helping her for the last few weeks with the cutest little girl in the entire world. Oh my goodness. Anyway, and we live across the country, so that's not very fun, but it was fun to be with her. Anyway, she has a great steamer basket, and so I came home and I'm like, I'm gonna order it. So I got on Amazon, and my legs are too small, hers are a little bit longer, but it's the same concept. It sits inside of my little white pan, and it takes, so I talked about frozen onions being like super fast and easy, and a lot of people turn to that because they just have an aversion to chopping. You can get frozen broccoli and frozen other vegetables. Well, if you ever try to water saute frozen broccoli, I would rather eat a lot of other things in life than that. That's so disgusting. But I put it in, I did have some frozen broccoli available. So I put that in there on the steamer basket, and it kept its consistency, which I was so thankful for, because then I was able to eat that, and it was delicious. So that is that. And then I also brought in my little show and tell. This thing has been with me. Do you recognize this, John? This has been at some of the retreats that we've done. This is my lemon squeezer. I cannot be without it. It's lemon, lime, orange. It does all kinds of things. So that is so helpful for flavors, for the sparks, for lemon water in the morning. It's something that I've found irreplaceable. The other thing, Lacey talked about roasting vegetables, and you can do it on aluminum foil, you can do it on parchment paper, but I have found that this little bendy thing is, I just can't live without it. So this is a Silpat brand. It's a silicone baking sheet, and I happen to have one of these smaller things for my toaster oven because it's just my husband and I now. So we have smaller batches. And that is amazing, absolutely amazing. You can roast the chickpeas like Lacey was talking about. You can do all kinds of things. Roasted broccoli does, I keep talking about broccoli a lot. Roasted broccoli does take on a very different flavor if you put it on that. And you don't have to worry about anything sticking on it. It's awesome. And then the other thing that I didn't bring in is my Instant Pot. And I don't think that it's necessary. If you don't have an Instant Pot and you don't want to go buy one, certainly don't do it. But if you already happen to own one, or if you want to put that on Santa's list this year, oh my goodness, there's another one that I went through the kitchen and I thought, okay, what can I not live without? That's what I'm going to tell everyone. So it was my Instant Pot. I make all of my rice and all of my beans in the Instant Pot, and I do it quickly. So I'm just going to tell you how I do my rice. So I get whatever kind it is. I got some jazzberry rice. It's really cool. I got black rice. I've got whole grain brown rice from Costco, organic brand, organic. Anyway, so you just rinse it off between your hands, and I measure 1 cup to 2 cups of water, put it in the pan or in the Instant Pot, and then I set the manual for 10 minutes and walk away. And 10 minutes later, I come back, and it's amazing. Every single time it turns out. I've never had a dud, and I make it all the time. Quinoa takes 2 minutes. And those are the two I make the most. I've also done longer grains in it, but I can't tell you the times right now because it's been too long. And then, so what I'll do, I'll actually make like 2 cups of dry rice at a time. So I'll get a lot more out of it. And then I just put it on a baking sheet, freeze it, and then take it out, crumble it, and put it up in a freezer container. So it's super easy to grab, and I never have to reheat it. Is awesome. All you do is put it under a little strainer, grab some rice, put in it, run it under some hot water. It's done. You're done. And I know that's a lot of more work than it is to just go buy the frozen rice. But should you want to make it, that's an awesome way to do it. The other thing is the beans in my Instant Pot. So obviously the easiest is getting a can already made, already done, perfect. And the next easiest would be, well, like the old-fashioned way is to soak your beans overnight and then get them out in the morning, rinse them off, and then maybe soak them another day or not, and then put some seasonings with them, bring it to a boil, let it simmer, and then cook it for hours, or put it in the slow cooker, similar method. Well, the Instant Pot, if I have an hour before dinner, I'm good. And I don't have any beans, I'll rinse my black beans off, put them in there. There's really no measuring, it's just covering the beans. And then one thing that I do, I've never missed a batch of beans with this, is this stuff called kombu. It takes the gassiness away and it makes it more digestible. It looks like this. It's just a seaweed. It's pretty cool. It also comes, I happen to have 2 varieties to show you. Another one comes like this. It's long and flat. So at the end of the cooking, this turns really slimy. So it's easy to just get it and discard it. I guess you could eat it if you wanted to. I think the texture is so repugnant that I wouldn't. But it actually is what they, back in the 60s, they were trying to get that flavor when they were making MSG. So that's kind of a cool tidbit. Anyway, so I put the beans in, cover them with water, put the kombu in it, close it. And for black beans and pinto beans, no, black beans and navy beans, it's about 25 minutes manual in the Instant Pot. And if you have them, you'll know what I mean. And if it's pinto, it's maybe 28 minutes, kidney beans, maybe 32, and chickpeas, so good in the Instant Pot. They turn out so good, and they're about 45 minutes. And what I do with that is, any beans, you just put it in, turn it on, let it do their thing, and then you wait until the pressure is down naturally. So it does take a little bit longer than an hour, but not a lot. And then you get all of these beans. They're amazing. And what I do is, just like I do with the rice, just kind of let it air dry a little bit, spread it out on a pan. And then I have a 1.5 cup measuring cup, put it in individual Ziploc bags, lay them flat, freeze them. And a 1.5 cups of beans is equal to 1 can of beans. So that is how I do my beans. I don't put any other seasonings like onion, garlic, or whatever, because I figure whatever they're going to be cooked with is going to have that anyway. So great for soups, great for roasting them. Anyway, I could talk about food all night long. So if you have any questions or you guys have anything, you just let me know. And go ahead, Lace.
Thanks, Darlene.
Okay, so the kitchen tools that I can't live without. I mean, you can equip your kitchen with as much or as little as you want, but really the only absolute non-negotiable necessities are a cutting board, a knife, and a pan. That's about all you absolutely need to be successful with this way of eating. However, there are a few kitchen tools that make cooking very fun. Like, I don't have show and tell today, but a garlic press. I don't know about you, but the smell of garlic stays on my hands for so long, no matter how many times I wash them. So using a garlic press reduces the amount of time garlic is touching my skin, so I don't smell for as long. And with this, I don't have to chop the garlic. I just squeeze it into my dish and it's done. A little spatula. If you don't have one, just get one. You'll thank me. I use this every single day of my life, and it is so handy for things you'll never think of, like steaming veggies or mixing sauces or scraping bowls or other containers. It's so handy. A strainer has so many uses. If you cook your own grains, like Darlene was talking about, or beans, it's important to rinse them before you cook them. If you use canned beans, it's great to strain and rinse them. If you use frozen corn or frozen rice or veggies or beans, you just pop them in the strainer, turn on the hot water and heat them up. There's no need to cook them further, so it's super, super fast. And it's great for straining steamed veggies so you don't have a bunch of water at the bottom of your bowl, because that's gross. I totally agree with the good pan. I love my Le Creuset pans. They make it so much fun to cook. They provide even heat distribution and they make caramelizing a breeze, and you can transfer them to the oven. I love them. I also really love my Vitamix. This is so great for making sauces and dressings, and it makes them just so creamy and luxurious, so you don't feel like you're missing out on that fat because it has a similar mouthfeel. Food processor literally makes the best hummus. It's also great for making more textured sauces and dressings and for making veggie burgers, should you be into that. And last but not least, the Mac Daddy of all kitchen tools, the air fryer. I love my air fryer. It makes the best fries. It's so great for cooking things quickly and evenly and adding an extra crunch factor without any of the oil. And air fryers have come such a long way. I've used a couple different kinds and have had success with each. So currently I have one of the dinosaur ones. I have one of the very first ones. It's a Philips air fryer, but my sister-in-law, she just got a toaster oven with an air fryer feature and she loves it. So air fryers are just awesome and I would recommend them.
All right. Well, Darlene and Lacey, thank you so much. That was awesome. And so you guys, you do have a replay of the video because there was a lot of information there, but I do want to just say this. When you are first starting out, don't overcomplicate it. You don't need every tool that they just talked about. Just like Lacey, just a knife, a cutting board, and a pan. That's how you start, right? It's just like anything new you start. You don't have to have the best and all of it and everything. Start off slow, start off small. Find, like Darlene started with, one breakfast, one lunch, one dinner. Just do that for a week, right? You're not gonna drive yourself crazy. It's only 1 week. Switch it up the next week if you want, or keep going, right? The whole idea with having Darlene and Lacey come on is to give you an idea of the expansiveness, right? We talked about the X and 10X, expansive, everything that's out there. There's so much that you can do that you're not thinking about if you're new to this, because you've always eaten the way you've always eaten, right? So all these new ways of cooking and eating and roasting vegetables, and all this other stuff is simply to give you an idea of everything that's out there for you, right? So don't be overwhelmed. We're not trying to say you got to start doing all this stuff tomorrow and, we expect to see bowls with roasted vegetables and all this other. That's not what we're saying. It's just to make it easy, all right? So
because you can come to my house where I have a toaster oven that has a convection feature, but it's an Oster. I paid $60 for it. It's not the Breville. I have a microwave. I have a food processor, which is a Cuisinart, and it is a nice one. And I have a mandolin. That is the entirety of my kitchen collection. Oh, I have my big all-clad pan, my chef's pan. That's it. I got a cookie sheet and a strainer, cutting board, and a knife. But that's it. That's why I love coming to immersions, because I get to hang out with you guys and you cook me amazing food. But I use a microwave for almost everything. Kale, minute in the microwave. Heat up any batch cooked items in a bowl, microwave. If I want to make potatoes, I do them in my toaster oven. I do things really, really, really simple, unless I'm doing something elaborate for a photo shoot for Plant Strong. Otherwise, that's how I eat. I do use the frozen rice. I don't cook beans from scratch. So know that there is an entire spectrum that you can hit on. If you love doing that stuff, don't get me wrong, Rancho Gordo beans are amazing. I just don't eat them every day. And so know that you can fall anywhere on the spectrum and still have amazing food. And you can play with all of the tools and accessories, and it can be super fun. My mandolin is one of my favorite things once I got over my fear of losing fingers using it. A mandolin is the thing that makes French fries and super thin sliced things. And I highly recommend the steel mesh glove so you cannot lose your fingers. But it is really fun to play with your food. Like they said, when you get to the point where you're really excited about beans, and I know for some of you who are brand new to this, you're not yet really excited about beans, and that's okay. you'll get there. Once you get to that point, playing around with the air fryer and playing around with making your own hummus and things like that and learning how to do those things can be super, super fun. If you think of this way of eating as an adventure and you think about resetting your palate as an exploration into new foods and flavors that you may not have experienced before and not in the way that a reset palate really can. I know that you who have been here for a while know that amazingness of like a very fresh potato with nothing on it, just a potato without adding anything to it, and how your taste buds will change over time to appreciate things like that. Once you start down this path, you're gonna find yourself in the spice shop, picking out new spices and exploring and just really enjoying the adventure of that. So play this video back, take a bunch of notes, because you're really gonna want to hit up a lot of these ideas. And maybe if it seems a little overwhelming now, in a few weeks it might not. So please come back and play this again.
That's a great point, Amy. So again, thank you, Darlene and Lacey. Folks, just keep it easy. And I got to tell you, even I've been doing this for 6 years and I'm still learning stuff new. Lori Kordowich, who's our executive program director, told me to try mustard on my corn on the cob, and it is out of this world. I thought she was crazy. I thought she was messing with my head, but I'm telling you, Cleveland Stadium mustard on corn on the cob, you got to try it. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. And you heard it here first. Well, you heard it from Lori, then from me, but you know what I'm saying. So, all right.
The great corn debate.
Yeah, the great corn debate. That was the debate after the cooking part of the debate. I'm still sticking with my 10 minutes for those of you that saw the video. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit of mindset, right? We like to talk a little bit of mindset each week because that is also an important part, not only of this program, as you guys are changing mindset, changing the way you eat, changing the way you exercise, but it's also going to help you when we get into talking about habits in just another week or so. All right. So, we talk a little bit about, this past week about people having a slip up or people, maybe falling off the engine, as we like to say. And that's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. It happens to coaches to this day. It's just, we're human and it happens. So I wanted Amy to talk a little bit about slip ups and how we kind of get past them and move on and get back on the engine. So Amy.
Absolutely. We've all had those weekends. Who didn't go to their brother's birthday party with the best of intentions to avoid the cake and the pizza and the wings and every other thing? We've all had moments like that, whether it was at the office Christmas party or some other gathering. It tends to be gatherings for whatever reason. But if you don't make it out of the party, plan strong. When you get home, don't beat yourself up. Drink a big glass of water, right? Start there. The next day, double up on your greens, because chances are you're probably going to feel kind of cruddy. After you have been off the standard American diet for a little while, and then you go and have a burger or pizza or cheese or dairy, the funniest thing happens, because you don't have to be away from it for very long to feel kind of gross after you've eaten it. And it might not hit you in the first 5 minutes, but give it 15 or 20. And then there it is. And it's like, oh, well, first of all, it wasn't as good as I remembered. And secondly, now I feel kind of awful. And so if you're feeling that way, double up on your greens, make sure you're drinking your water, get some movement going, right? Go for a long walk if you can. And just start back in next meal immediately. Start back on the engine, so to speak. If you can do that and you just keep at it and keep loading, know that when you do fall off or jump off, depending upon your mindset, you're kind of setting your palate back to your taste buds back to square one. It can be really challenging to follow that cycle. So if you are a breakfast and lunch and then you mess up at dinner and you're having a hard time staying on plan for 3 meals a day, know that meal that you're having, that third meal, can be one of the things that's making it harder the next day. And so the more days you can string together, having all of your meals plant strong and loading up on your greens and only drinking your water and black coffee and tea, the more days like that you can string together, the easier it will be to maintain. But when you do fall off, my best advice is that water, greens, and movement, and get right back on the next meal. Know that it happens to all of us, even when we don't intend to. And don't let it get to the point where it goes more than a day, right? Even if it's, say it's a whole day, see, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you lose it all, whole weekend even. If you fall into that trap, try and get back as soon as you possibly can. Don't let it go days, don't let it go weeks, don't let it go months. Been there, done that. We had the infamous pizza trifecta in Chicago. We meant to have one Chicago style pizza on our vacation. That's all we really meant to have. We ended up having pizza from 3 different places in Chicago and got some to go to have on the train. That cost us 6 months of Plant Strong eating back in 2011 before we really got serious. And we had been on the 21-day vegan jumpstart from PCRM was our first foray into vegan eating, and we were doing really well. We fell off, we were mortified, and we said, well, we're off now, might as well enjoy. And we gained back everything that we lost and then some, and it was miserable. Don't do that to yourself. Get back on as soon as you can, come into the group, say, listen, you know, I'm back, I'm refreshed, I'm doing this, I'm focused, I've got a plan, I've got my batch cooking, I'm ready to go. But it happens to all of us. We all have ended up in that boat. And the best thing you can do is learn from it. Remember the feeling that you felt when you didn't feel so good after eating the foods that you probably didn't want to eat in the first place, but everybody else was, and so therefore. Peer pressure will get the best of almost all of us. So go prepared, eat before you go, have a snack that you can have with you, and just get back on as soon as you can.
All right. Thanks, Amy. Great advice there. Amy, someone did have one question. How did it set you back 6 months?
Because we felt awful when we got home, and it was like, you know, well, there went our 21-day jumpstart. We had done it actually for 3 months. We had started 21 days, which was the time period for the app for the PCRM challenge. We had done that, and we just kept doing it over and over again, using the recipes again. We were doing so well. We even took food with us to Chicago. We went on the train from Minneapolis to Chicago. We had our little sleeping car. We had packed snacks and every other thing. We had a great plan. We were all set to go. We went up to the Willis Tower, the old Sears Tower in Chicago. And on our way down, we passed Giordano's Pizza. And there was a guy outside, and he's like, pizza, pizza, you know, Chicago pizza, everybody like loading in the tourists from outside, and they had them ready to go. You could just grab a box and go. And it was just one of those things. And my husband says, we're in Chicago. We've never had Chicago pizza. We should have one. It's just a little one. What? It won't hurt, just one. And then later that weekend, somebody else had said to us, oh, well, have you had pizza yet? And we're like, yeah, we had Giordano's. And they're like, no, you need to get Gino's East. And so we ended up on this pizza tour. When we got home, I think we each gained like 8 pounds because we ate our way around Chicago. And when we got home, we just kind of felt cruddy, and it was like, screw it. I don't feel like doing this anymore. I'm tired. I don't feel good. I just don't feel like cooking today. Let's order Chinese food. And one thing led to another, and we just didn't get back on plan. This was before I lived an Engine 2 lifestyle. I had the Prevent Reverse Heart Disease book on my shelf. I glanced through it. It looked extreme. This was before Forks Over Knives, before I had seen the movie. And it was really easy for us to make all of those excuses. I will post my food issues. I have a long post that I'll share with you all in the Facebook group, but I am 11 years sober. My husband is 21 years sober. We are both food addicts, and we will find any excuse out there to eat things that we shouldn't. It's sort of our drug of choice, food, because we won't have a beer or a glass of wine. And so it's the one thing that we can get that dopamine rush from. And so that is how we were programmed, both of us, from the time we were kids, that food is comfort and food is safe and food is all of those wonderful things that we tend to medicate with food for. And because that's my habit pattern, and that was my husband's habit pattern, it was so easy when we got back from Chicago to just say, whatever, we're done, right? And we just went back to the way that we used to do things. And I know for a lot of you that can really be your MO. How many diets have you started and didn't make it the week? And how many times have you lost a massive amount of weight only to gain it all back? And if you've been in that cycle, this is the program for you. And when I talk to you about resetting your palate, about staying on plan, about writing things down, about understanding things that a lot of the things that we set out to explain to you in the 7-Day Rescue and the Rescue 10X is truly about changing the way you do things and think about things. And so we've talked about loophole shopping. We've talked about finding the questions that you ask and the reasons why they cause you anxiety, whether it's about the cream in your coffee or not having tofu or the condiments that we use or don't. All of those things, food is really personal. And for a lot of us, we may have been relying on food for years without really consciously thinking about what it would take to give those things up. It can be emotional, and it can be challenging, and it can be one of the hardest things that you can do is to take a really hard look at the way that you may use food. And it can be really challenging to confront the truth of that. And this doesn't apply to everybody, but it does apply to some people, and it definitely applies to me. And so if you've ever driven around in your car thinking about food or where you might eat next or what your next meal might be, if you've secretly eaten food, whether it was in your car in a parking lot or away from other people and you hid the wrappers, you are speaking to a friend in me. And so we'll talk more about that in the Facebook group, but just know that once you figure out the ramifications of how to live clean with clean eating, and by clean eating, I mean the 7-Day Rescue. Once you figure out what that can truly do for you, the post that I made earlier this week about being 100% as opposed to 85, it's amazing. It's like the difference between struggling through a 5K race and being able to run a marathon and still have energy left. That's the difference between 85% on plan and 100% on plan. And I'm here to help you all get there.
Thanks, Amy. That's great. So yeah, I mean, you know, if you think about it, one of the other things that we talk about in this program, and a lot of people bring up in the different groups, has been moderation, right? What about a little bit of this or a little bit of that? And sometimes that's the gateway to a big slip up or going off track, like Amy said, for 6 months. Is that, you know, because what's moderation? You know, a little bit of cheese for you, maybe a little bit of cheese not for me, right? So everyone's got a different level of what's moderation. And both Rip and Dr. Esselstyn talk about it in their books. Moderation kills. There's no such thing as moderation. It's really just, you know, it takes you longer to reset your taste buds. Like Amy said, it just takes you back. So at least for these 10 weeks, right? At least for these 10 weeks, give yourself the best shot and don't let moderation, you know, sneak into your vocabulary and think that, okay, well, a little bit of chocolate or a little bit of ice cream is better than going all in. Because guess what? When you bring it into the house, when you get it back on your taste buds, trust me, you're going to want more of it, right? If it's in the house, you're going to want more of it. And, you know, if you live in a divided household, it's even harder, right? Because you may go ahead and have that little bit of ice cream, and guess what? That ice cream is going to be in the house, not for you, but for everyone else in the house. And it's just going to be there tempting you. And the other thing I want to say about slip-ups is another way to kind of look at slip-ups is it's a decision, right? Ultimately, you made a decision to eat that food. Ultimately, Amy and her husband made a decision to get that pizza, right? It's a slip-up, but it was a decision. And so what we work with you on in this program is with the if this then statements, right? You make different decisions. You make different decisions to stay on plan. And I forget what season it was in, but Jesse Itzler was interviewed on the Plant Strong podcast, and he has a great 2-word quote: remember tomorrow, right? In other words, think about what you're about to do today, how it affects your tomorrow. How does it keep you from reaching your ultimate goals? How does it keep you from moving forward, right? So don't look at a slip up as, I made a mess up. No, it's okay. You made a decision, but now it's time to make a decision to get back on the engine, to get back on plan, right? Don't give up. That's not what I'm suggesting. All I'm saying is be honest with yourself and why that slip up happened, why you ended up having that pizza, or why you ended up having that chocolate. We've all been there. All the coaches that you've heard from tonight, we've all been there. And so what we're saying to you is don't give up. This is just a mind thing, and you've got to get over it. And you're going to get stronger week after week after week. And especially when we start getting into habits, you're going to see that you guys have control and that your mind can do this, and you can get your mind to think, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to do what's right, right? And yep, I'm going to have a slip up. I'm going to make a bad decision, but guess what? Tomorrow's a new day and I start all over again, and it's awesome. So, all right. So I want to thank Darlene and Lacey for joining us tonight. It was so awesome to have you guys here. That was a boatload of great information. And again, I suggest everybody rewatch this if you're ready to take that next step and you know, try some different things with your cooking. So thank you both so much. And the good news is you're going to see Darlene and Lacey later in the program. So this is not their only visit for the 10 weeks. So we look forward to having you guys back. So thank you very much. All right. So so next week we get we're going to start the first little bit of information on creating habits. So you don't want to miss next week. So if you've got anything in the Facebook, join us. If everyone wants to unmute, we'll do our cheer for the week. And you guys all have a fantastic week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. See you in the Facebook group in between. All right? All right, here we go. We are 10X.
We are 10X.
We are 10X. We are 10X. And try mustard on your corn. All right, everybody, have a great week. High fives all around. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Good night.
Good night.
Going to bed?